Hey guys, Pat here. It's fucking awesome. It's finally here, the Blade Runner 2049 trailer. So this is going to be my review, breakdown, and theories on the trailer and how I feel about the production of this movie so far. Just going to get it out of the way early. Big Blade Runner fan, one of my 20 favorite films. Have a poster hanging up in my room. Just love the damn movie to death. Seen Blade Runner countless times. I will say though, I never think Ridley Scott had a single vision. I think his mind was all over the place. I think Ridley Scott is a very flawed storyteller, but a great visual director. And I think Blade Runner, all of its flaws, I think have to do with Scott more than anything else. But I think despite him, it is a masterpiece because of everyone else working on the film, including the cast, the writers. And this isn't knocking Ridley Scott. I think he did a great job making the film, but my favorite things about Blade Runner, I'm not sure how much Scott really knew one way or the other, if that was actually, the storytelling choice that was right. Especially, obviously, the Deckard being a replicant thing, which now, obviously, is not true. Deckard's clearly still, human. We'd have to assume off the footage we see. But let's look at a little bit of the trailer and we'll break down. Now this is some deep cut Blade Runner fan shit. This isn't just a reaction video to the trailer. I want to talk about this fucking trailer and I want to talk about this goddamn movie. Okay, so here we are at the beginning. And this is Denis Villeneuve. I have a hard time pronouncing his name because it's a really tough last name to pronounce, but I think it's Villeneuve or something like that. But I'll call him Dennis for this. But if you don't know who Dennis is, he made Prisoners and Sicario and Arrival this year, all very acclaimed movies. I like the opening stuff here, the shots of the city and all that. Very, very reminiscent of the original movie. But then we go to this stuff with the sun. And this is the sun planet, sun space. Because I'm wondering if this is Earth or if Gosling's actually on another planet. Now, I know that sounds like some crazy stuff. I'm going to pause right here. I know that sounds like some crazy shit, and you guys don't want to hear that, but I think it's possible that Deckard went to another planet and is currently hiding out there, and that is where Gosling's Blade Runner character goes and finds him. That's just a crazy out there theory. This could very well just be a part of Earth that looks like shit, because we only saw L.A., and LA looked like an old dirty crappy Japan. It looked really dirty and old and messed up in the future. So this is probably, in real, if we're being realistic here, this is probably just somewhere on Earth that Deckard went to go hide out after the end of Blade Runner. But for me, I find it interesting if there's a possibility that Deckard went to another planet in the future. But I don't know if that's actually going to be a thing. Probably not. But I would very much think that was a cool aspect if Deckard actually went to the planet. Okay. But anyway, Gosling's character's walking through this place that it looks like Mars basically, and you see the director's title, and then he comes up to this building, and it's abandoned, and you're kind of like, what's going on? And I gotta say, it's awesome. Ryan Gosling's the fucking Blade Runner in this. Wonderful casting. He has that great look for neo-noir. And Roger Deakins shooting the shadow. He has a silhouette there with the finger, and he hits the piano, and we get the Blade Runner. We get a Blade Runner key. And then he turns, and Deckard shows up, bitches, holding his gun from the original movie, which is badass, of course. It's one of my favorite weapons. And then they have the line, I used to do what you do, and he said it was a lot simpler back then, and then we get the title. They don't show you much. So, for me to even, break down this trailer is ridiculous, because we don't know a damn thing about this movie, for the most part. But let's look at the information of what we know, and try to break down something, or get something out of this. Okay, we know that a writer from the original film is part of this. We know that Ridley Scott is an executive producer on this. Okay, so one has to assume that there at least is an intention here, an idea of how to expand the universe of Blade Runner, because the original ending was ambiguous, but with the whole unicorn figurine at the end, a lot of people always took it as Deckard was a replicant too, with the memories. But now, the question is, did Deckard have memory implants in the original Blade Runner, but was not a replicant, which hopefully this film will explain that, or is Deckard somehow a replicant that can age, which seems unlikely. But let's just say that's possible. But I also thought Deckard was never a replicant because of how easily he got beat up by the other replicants, and it just never really made a lot of sense to me. It seemed like I don't know, it just seemed I like the idea that they have a replicant kill another replicant, or maybe a lot of people are replicants and don't know. But this movie might go into that more. They say that the plot is something about Gosling's character. It's very vague. Gosling character finding out some big conspiracy going on that could destroy everything. So he has to go find Deckard to get help. Now, why would he go find Deckard? Right? What's the point of going to get Deckard? Because it's not like the two of them are going to be able to do anything that much crazier. There has to be purpose to this meetup. Okay, so Gosling we know is a Blade Runner so far in the movie. Now, I think Gosling's character, for all we know, could also be a replicant possibility, but that's crazy because really, in my opinion, Blade Runner's main theme was to make the replicants be just as human as Ford's character, so there really was no difference. I never thought it mattered that much. But I mean, is she dead? I mean, oh my God, I mean, the replicant. I can't believe I can't think of her name right now. Um, I'm just thinking about it in my head. I'm like, oh my God, is she dead? Because they ran off together at the end. But okay, so Deckard and her had to go off really far away to stay away from getting hunted by the Blade Runner because Deckard tells her somebody's going to come after you, and we know that she didn't get killed off at the end of the first movie. And, she probably should have. Her expiration date, we're not sure how long it was. Now, in the original ending with the narration, the one that I don't like and a lot of people don't like, he says she doesn't have any expiration date, so they're just going to live and see what happens. But in the official final cut ending, we don't know what happens at the end when the door shuts. My question is, I don't really care so much about the 30 years in between. Why is Gosling going to Deckard is my question. Why is Deckard, why does he need his help to do this thing? I have to think that it's because Deckard knows something and it has to relate to the first movie, or Deckard somehow has a key to something that relates to the first movie. But what is it? That's the question, right? I've been having a hard time figuring it out. I have theories, and you guys can come up with your theories in the comments. Now, I think it might have something to do with the colonies and the stuff going on in outer space that we did not get to see in Blade Runner at all. I think it might have something to do with that, or something that there was a lot more replicants than we ever knew. Maybe everyone, half the population or something. We don't know. The planet looks like complete shit here, so I don't know if this is even more apocalyptic looking than Blade Runner ever was. The city still looks the same. When he's walking through the city at the end, that cool shot at the end where he's just walking through the city and stuff, that's all like the original movie. That's just him walking through the city and all that, and that just building up tension and all that. But I just don't know why does he just go get Deckard? Is it really just because he wants to go and get the best Blade Runner back then and get his help? But really, he said it was a lot simpler then. So if it was more simple then, how complicated has it become? Because really, in the original Blade Runner, you didn't have a choice. Deckard had to go take the job. He didn't really get an option to not turn down the job in the first movie. And it's interesting here, why is Gosling, he has to be going against being a Blade Runner, because if he's going to find Deckard, who I'm assuming is an outlaw, his purpose, God, it's tough. I've been thinking about this ever since this came out yesterday. Somebody give me some theories down in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you think that Deckard, where is he hiding out? Why is Gosling's Blade Runner character going to find him? Now, we know Dave Bautista and Jared Leto are in the movie. I think they both have to be playing replicants, because just looking at Jared Leto and Dave Bautista, it makes sense to me. Now, I could be fucking wrong as shit on this, but it just makes so much sense to me just to cast them in those roles. I don't know why. It's kind of like how Daryl Hannah looked, or the actors who looked the way they did in the first movie were cast as replicants, had very specific looks to them. And I feel like these two actors have a certain physical presence and look to them that's very deliberate. Now, they could be playing other Blade Runners or something, too. We don't know. The possibilities are actually endless, which is very crazy. But I think something is going on with the government, the main organization, somebody who's been behind this. I don't think it's the Tyrell Corporation. We might get some stuff from the Tyrell Corporation. But I think the replicant thing, the conspiracies, a lot of the themes and ideas in Blade Runner were very solid. They were things that you could read into and watch the film multiple times and get from the imagery. There's almost stuff in it like a silent film, like Alien was. but Blade Runner is so much thematic depth in all of the little details. But the broader story, we always had bigger questions. I'm thinking this film is here to answer the broader questions. I think to really flesh out the replicants, the Nexus, what's going on in space. That them even coming down to Earth now. How many of them are on Earth at this point? I think that there's a lot more going on with this, and people have been lied to on a few things. What exactly happened to the planet in this future, and why we even have Blade Runners and why they kill the replicants. I think there's an even bigger conspiracy to a lot of that this film is going to unlock, and Ryan Gosling's character finds that out, and maybe the only person who ever left the system willingly and got out of there like that was Deckard, so thus he has to go to Deckard because he can't trust anyone else. And I still don't know that he plans on the two of them to do something, but I have to assume it has to do with something dealing with the plot of the first Blade Runner movie, and something with the Tyrell Corporation on some level, who Harrison Ford used to work for, when he went on the run, perhaps how long she lived when they were together, all those things. Let's talk about some of the technical things, though, because it's really hard to give a lot of theories because there's not. Beautiful cinematography here by Roger Deakins. The lighting is absolutely gorgeous. It's some of the silhouette stuff that he does. It's actually very similar to the first film by Jordan Cronenweth. If you go back and look at some of the shots here, I'll put side by side, they're very similar in a lot of ways in how they're framed and lined up and stuff, and the lighting. Now, if you're a fan of Jordan Cronenweth, to go back, you'll see how Deakins is paying homage to him here a little bit, but it's still very much Dennis's style that we saw in Sicario, and maybe not so much even Arrival. Arrival had a very subdued color. It was a very just subdued movie in general, and I don't know if that was just because of the DP he had, who that's more of his style. It's the guy who shot Selma. This film, though, just seems to have that pop, that visceral pop of shadow and color and natural lighting. I mean, when Gosling walks into that building, I mean, these are just little bits. You have to assume this is a $100 million, $150 million movie, so we're not seeing anything, but this just looks gorgeous from the little shots we saw. I mean, I didn't like Prometheus, but I can't knock the special effects and set design. The movie was gorgeous. This film, I will give it that. It already looks gorgeous. I really liked Arrival. I thought it was Dennis's best film from a storytelling perspective. I think he's a better storyteller than Scott. I think he showed that with Prisoners. All of his films are flawed, but in my opinion, Blade Runner's a little flawed, but it's imperfect in a great way. This film, I know a lot of people don't want it because they don't want it to ruin the legacy of the first film. I think it can only expand the legacy. I think maybe they really have a good idea here, and there's a lot of talented people involved. You have one of the best DPs in the world. You have a writer from the original film, Scott again. You have a lot of a technical crew that had to be brought on by Ridley Scott. The score's being done by the people who did the score for Sicario and Arrival. I mean, I think we're already getting little bits here. They mix some stuff from the original Vangelis score, which is one of the best scores in cinema history. I think it's going to be a brilliant score in this. And Dennis has that restrained style like Ridley Scott showed in his career, especially early on. In his later career, I think he became much more kinetic and visceral. In his early career, the substance came from the quiet and letting the images speak for themselves. And I think Dennis does that. And really, it suits better sci-fi sometimes than him doing like a drug cartel movie or a thriller, which I love. I love the movies he does, but Enemy, I think, is more him. Something that's very abstract and is completely visual and thematic, and you really have to watch it a few times. I think that's what a lot of this movie is going to be, still being, set up as a mainstream Hollywood movie, but this is going to be a unique Hollywood movie. This is going to be a rare one that we don't see quite often. It's going to be a big budget film that is really smart, really dense, and doesn't answer all the questions it brings up. It leads you to your own conclusion, something we maybe haven't seen since Christopher Nolan's Inception, but maybe even deeper than that because it's in the Blade Runner universe. I hope this just makes the first film richer. I hope it doesn't make the storylines in the first film even more confusing and convoluted, because there is still stuff about Blade Runner 1 that nags me, especially the Deckard replicant thing, with the different cuts of the movie. And now with this, I don't know what the fuck. I hope this is Ridley Scott finally answering all those questions. Where Prometheus really didn't answer a lot of questions, it just opened up a bunch of new questions within its own film. This film, I think, is going to answer questions. I think Scott's next film, The Alien Covenant, I think he's going back to the Xenomorph. I think he wants to make a horror film again. And I think this film, he knew he didn't need to make it. He needed to give it to a younger director, like when he was a younger director, and someone who's hungry. And why would this crew all come together? I mean, Dennis doesn't need to do this. Ryan Gosling and them don't need to do this. These are people that we've seen be picky with their projects. So, like I said, I just have to assume this is something where they all came. This isn't Disney making The Force Awakens and hiring J.J. Abrams, and I'm not knocking that. To me, this feels like a group of people that went like, hey, we really want to go back to Blade Runner and do this and look at these things again. Right? I mean, if they capture that tone and the spirit of Blade Runner again, and then they flesh everything out even more, and then make us question our own humanity even deeper than we did the first time, I can't be more excited than that. I mean, I think it's going to be an amazing movie. I know it's early call, could be a disappointment. I don't have that. I'm as hyped for this as you could possibly be. I'm way more hyped for this than I am for Star Wars Episode 8. By far. I think this film is going to kick ass. I think Gosling may even be better cast now in this kind of role than Ford was in 82. Love Harrison Ford, but I just see Gosling in this detective role in the sci-fi futuristic universe. Man, he just looks so great from just like a blinding perspective, but it's great to have Deckard there too. Right, because Deckard's such a human character, and Ford really brings that everyman quality to it. So having that juxtaposition with them, and hopefully with the juxtaposition of the very, very beautiful, elegant visuals, and hopefully with some kinetic action scenes, I'm assuming some long tracking shots, some amazing special effects. Arrival's budget was only $47 million and was gorgeous. I imagine this is going to be one of the best looking films next year. Roger Deakins, I'm saying it, he might be getting his Oscar. This could be the one. Score is going to be one of the best, but what is the plot to this damn movie? What is going on? Who is behind this? And why is Gosling finding Deckard? That's what we need to know. And what are they going to end up doing in the movie? It's kind of weird this is Force Awakens again, where you have to get Han 30 years later to go, wrap things up. But I think this has a lot more to give us than that did with Han's character, because I think this is really going to flesh out the Blade Runner universe. I hope it doesn't flesh it out too much. I think they're going to have their own story, but I'm glad they brought in a writer from the original movie, because the writing on Blade Runner, the first movie, I think was very good. David Peebles isn't working on this, I don't think, and he also worked on Unforgiven. But leave your stuff in the comments. What do you guys think's going on? How did you like the trailer? Do you want a Blade Runner sequel? Do you not want a Blade Runner sequel? I'm open to all points of view. But please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be trying to do more trailer review breakdowns and talk about things, but very excited about this movie. I thought this was an awesome teaser trailer because it showed us nothing, but it got us very hyped and just gave us a mood for the movie. And just gave us little cues to Blade Runner without really feeling derivative. It's homage, but done in a very natural way and a nuanced way. And I think the whole film's going to be that way. I think he's still going to put his own stamp on it while saying, hey, Ridley Scott's world is Ridley Scott's world. Now I'm dipping my toes in it. Maybe this could be the Aliens to Alien, in a sense, where another visionary director comes in and gives us another great thing in that universe, right? I hope so. I really hope so. So until next time, guys, keep watching the movie trailers and keep supporting filmmakers like this. And God, let's just hope this is good, right? We need good original sci-fi.